Hey, comrade.
Hey everybody, so I'm on with my very good friend Nazbul Gang. Um, as I've said in the past, I get I've made fun of Nazbuls, etc., but he's a very good friend of mine, and he's not really a communist per se. He's more kind of a right wing socialist, is how I describe you.
Yeah,
You don't
I'm
have to do this in
third position.
character because
Yes.
I know the accent kind of gets difficult to maintain
Well,
after a while.
if I'm making a video with a camera, I like to be in character. But if I'm making a video of just voice and I'm discussing something, I don't know, people are going to see that. They always ask me like, "Is this serious?" and so on and so forth. Usually, when I'm using my real voice like this, because I use a lot of humor like you do, and that annoys people a lot. But if I'm using my real voice and I'm talking about policies and positions and like history and stuff like that, that's my real beliefs, like dead on.
Yeah, it's yeah, because I'm more monotone when
Yeah.
I'm doing it, so it's harder for people to tell. But anyways, I've been wanting to have you on for a while. My work schedule and your work schedule makes it kind of difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to talk about the midterm elections, how Trump's doing, etc.
I
So you want to start off just
we're
with your
kind of,
thoughts?
I don't know, we might be kind of rambling because we don't have any notes. I just wanted to say we both made videos where we told people the importance of voting. And kind of the problem is that in the United States, especially in a country of very low turnout, the strategy of the party isn't so much to get out your own voters as it is to get the potential voters of the enemy just as much as to prevent them from voting. So yes, the Republican Party isn't perfect, and yes, like I'm a third positionist, so the Republican Party's economic views are fucking awful. But at this point, they're probably more socialist and interventionist than the Democrats. But it's another story. But it's really important that you participate, and there's such little cost in doing so. It's almost no cost whatsoever.
To a certain the other thing I have to say is, and I think this is probably the best argument for kind of libertarian economics at this point. This if the state is against you, a smaller state is better.
Yes.
Like if the money's going to go to fund diversity and affirmative action and shitty university programs, I'd rather just have the money myself.
Yeah, when you get to something like Brazil and you have like straight up anarcho tyranny where they're just stealing and giving to the poor and just preventing and like not doing any law enforcement at all at that point, don't expect anyone to be anything else but like anarcho capitalist.
No, like in Venezuela, the government literally just steals your money
Yes.
and gives it to the unwashed masses. But no, it's there's a video I've been wanting. There's a couple reflection videos I've been meaning to do. I'm gonna do one on like what ISIS's long-term goal was. So I was gonna do one on how the left and right have changed over the last decade. It's like I feel like economic interventionism is very rapidly becoming a right-wing issue.
Yeah.
Protectionism is, and it's like one of the reasons I called myself kind of a leftist or socialist in university was they. I don't know if you're old enough to remember, but they used to be very pro nationalism. Like they used to kind of
Very
praise third
pro
world
labor union
nationalist
and very
movements.
pro protectionism.
I'm not saying they were ever like socially good, but they used to really hate globalism. It used to be a dirty word, and now they love globalism. They love the big banks. They love all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's because they support them.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's like the rainbow flag is the flag of imperialism, of globalism, to quote E. Michael Jones. But I think something, whether you want to be conspiratorial about it or not, that nobody ever talks about is that ISIS as a state doesn't exist anymore since Trump has taken office. Is rapidly deteriorated. A lot of people talk about ISIS being supported directly by the United States. I don't know if there's any kind of data. My theory is that like we don't know pretty much anything of what's really happening in Syria. It's just pure propaganda on all sides. But my idea was basically that ISIS isn't so much as a centralized group, but it's say
a brand,
guys or a brand of warlords, and that by supporting just anything against Assad, period, you're supporting ISIS, and that Trump essentially pulled the rug out from any support against Assad, so ISIS collapsed.
I kind of wonder if their master plan wasn't the refugee crisis. Maybe that's like reading too much into them. But I never, like, as fanatical as they were, I never got the impression that they were stupid or run by morons. Because they did achieve. So I wonder. But yeah, sorry, just we're getting off topic a bit.
Well, it reminds me of something. One thing that they did is that they deliberately attacked banks as soon as possible to steal the money. They were bank robbers to steal money and then try and exchange that money to support themselves internationally. And that's a very smart tactical move in a revolutionary organization.
It just felt like they kind of disintegrated almost overnight. Like they were at the height of their. Is it just because they pissed everyone off and literally every country on earth declared war on them simultaneously?
Well, I said that their collapse overnight. If you want to argue that the United States was supporting ISIS and that they have collapsed overnight when Trump took over. So there you go. I mean, there's coincidences in life, but maybe that one's not a coincidence.
Okay, so let's get to the the midterm. So here's my thing. We keep saying, oh, the conservatives or the fake center right party will never be able to win again, and I like, but it doesn't seem to wind up being the case, at least yet.
Well, when you have a single district plurality, unless if it's like South Africa or something, it's pretty hard to have. Like in the thing you see in like Mexico and like those Latin American countries is that conservative parties still are able to compete in these multiracial societies down there. I think that the presidency will be very difficult because the presidency is a different animal than the legislature elections in the United States.
Yeah, because I'm not convinced, and this is just because I admit I've kind of getting to the point on a lot of these things where people have said it's happening so many times and it hasn't happened that my default is it's not happening. And
can I say something though?
sure.
If the Republican Party will be fucked if they do not win the next election in Congress, because then they will do the census and then they'll change the congressional allocation.
Oh, that's when they're reading, because didn't they control it last time?
Yes, and if they do that, because they controlled that when Bush was in office, they controlled it in 2010. Remember in the 2010 midterms where Obama's like the Democrats got wrecked and everything. If they do that again, then they're going to do like harsh vengeance. You're going to see like Idaho go down to being like one representative or like crazy, like just like they're going to rip out representatives from like red states and they're just going to pile them on in California. And part of it is that I don't know, like this is actually like something that's really cool that the Trump administration has been doing, is attempting to ask a confirmation of citizenship in the census. Because what's basically happening is that non-citizens are counted as voters for this, as citizens for the census, so that California and New York and states with lots of illegal immigrants are disproportionately divided and given more congressmen than they ought to have because of that grossly.
They're saying we need to bring back the 3/5 rule.
Well, citizens should, only people that vote should be counted to giving.
Oh no, I know. I'm just joking. It's just funny because it's kind of.
I know that. I mean, automatically the Democrats are going to scream about the 3/5 rule.
Because in Toronto, that's like a major goal is to give non-citizens the right to vote in municipal elections.
Yeah. I mean,
that's one of their main
how insane
goals.
that is.
Yeah.
That's just, they should just say, we do not want elections. We just want to cheat. Because if you're going to have non-citizens allowed, that means that you're just going to let anyone come in as many times as they want to. Because if you have non-citizens voting, you're not going to enforce anything. So you're basically going to allow people to vote multiple times at that point. You might as well.
Right. Well, they won't let them pass voter registry. Like, sorry, we're jumping around, but like, how widespread do you think it is? Just people voting who, like, pretending they're someone else.
It depends on the state. In a state like Illinois, it's probably like massive. It's well known that Chicago is one of the most corrupt states. So like, often in Chicago.
No, sorry, that's a funny Freudian slip.
What did I say?
You said Chicago's the most corrupt state.
Oh.
no, because it kind of is. Like, isn't the rest of Illinois like red?
Yeah, the rest of Illinois is deep red, and then Chicago, because it's basic. It's like the same as Iowa. Well, I guess it's not deep red, but it's more red than Iowa, I guess.
Well,
but it's
Pennsylvania is deep red outside of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, but but basically what happens is that so when Obama ran, there was like 120% of voters showed up and stuff like that, and they universally voted for Obama, and nobody voted for McCain or nobody voted for Romney in all of Chicago and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was districts where 100% vote. Like, I can't believe that there's not some based black man, and those like one dude.
It's like, remember the Dimple Chads in Florida?
Yeah.
And remember how people accidentally voted for Buchanan or whatever in the Reform Party because they just like colored in the wrong dot? That's actually like, that's not it's not possible because somebody always colors in the wrong dot.
Now, and this is something, and I mean, let's pretend that we like democracy here for a minute. In Canada, I actually worked the poll one year, like as a vote counter, and we have a much simpler like ballot system. So my whole poll didn't have a single spoiled ballot. But in America, you have voting machines. I've looked at some of your ballots. They're like the most confusing things I've ever seen.
So in my county, there was like all these city elections and everything and county elections, so that there was a ballot. When I did it in person, a lot of people do mail-in now. I like to do it in person because I like the satisfaction of seeing the old lady put it directly in the box and knowing that it made it to the box. Mm-hmm. But my ballot was like 3 pages long. So I'm sure a lot of people, it took a very long time for them to count it because it was so long. And people didn't vote on the back side because they didn't even know there was a back side. They thought it was a front side and a second ballot and then a front side.
Wait a minute, there was a back to a ballot?
Yes, there was a back side to a ballot.
Couldn't the ink like bleed through?
I don't know if it did. I didn't. Maybe it could have on some of them, but they're really thick paper. So I don't think so.
It just doesn't sound like a good idea.
Well, it obviously wasn't a good idea because I didn't know there was a back. I just instinctively, whenever I do a test or do anything like that, I flip the paper to make sure that I'm not like, but there was a backside. It wasn't on the, so for instance, I remember it not being on the ballot or the mail-in ballot that they give you, the test ballot.
Right.
Because you get a test ballot. So you can see all, because our state has a bunch of like propositions and stuff.
Right.
It always does, and that's what makes the ballot so long. Mm-hmm. But so what I was getting at earlier was a lot of people don't understand that not getting you to not vote is basically the strategy of the other side.
Yeah.
They want you to be angry for Trump not getting what you want so you don't vote. And the idea of not voting for Trump because you didn't get everything you wanted or some of what you wanted is stupid because voting is an extremely low cost. very, very low.
Well, I never understood the whole Trump didn't deliver, like, because I think he delivered a lot given
Well,
the.
Trump.
And sorry, just let's transition to that. What
Okay.
Trump's done. Okay,
Trump
go ahead.
gave us, like, Trump is completely delivered as far as a president can go by himself on protectionism. Like, he's started a trade war with China. China is doing worse economically right now than it was. Like, it's on par to the great like the worst times of 2008. Like, the United States is directly causing China's economy to get fucked up because of Trump's trade war with China. That's absolutely something I voted for. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, like, people complain. I just feel like he's done a lot, considering the fact that the entire media, bureaucracy, deep state, whatever you want to call it, and his own party have been actively trying to stop him from getting any of his priorities done.
Well, he wasn't. I mean, the Republican Party was the party of Paul Ryan. Like, it did Paul Ryan shit. What was Paul Ryan shit? Getting, like, low taxes and getting rid of Obamacare. And they tried as hard as they fucking could to get rid of Obamacare. And that's something I really actually don't support. I want single payer healthcare for the United States, whatever that means.
I think that's less. I think that would be less bad, and I think completely private healthcare would be less bad. I think what you have now is this bizarre, horrific chimera. That's the worst of both.
Yeah, systems. I think, but a lot of it is that the corporations themselves are directly lobbying.
Yeah,
to basically give themselves more cash at the expense of the voters and the workers and everything.
No, but I think either single payer or allowing them to compete across state lines would be better than the current system.
Mm-hmm.
But I had always thought Paul Ryan wasn't that bad before he became speaker. Is it just because, like, a lot of, like, conservatives and, like, the media really liked him and didn't like Romney?
Yeah, it has a lot to do with basically he's like National Review the person,
right?
Like, he literally believes in everything that National Review does.
I remember back when I used to read National Review on, like, a daily basis.
What was it like? I've read about Buckley as a person, but maybe here or there I read some of their social conservative pieces, but I never even, from my understanding, nobody reads it and they just get money from investors.
I used to basically read just Mark Stein and Dennis Prager, and that was about it.
Yeah, depressive side Phil, I know that he isn't a conservative, and neither am I.
Okay, well, Trump isn't. But what does? And I hate to throw this card because I know it's kind of lame. But what does conservative even really mean anymore?
So let's go back. What did conservative mean in, like, when? So are we talking about the United States or cross Anglo world for conservative?
It doesn't matter.
Okay, so what did Barry Goldwater stand for? Free markets and aggression towards the Soviet Union.
And pot.
Well,
and gay marriage.
There you go. There's conservatism. The guy that was the guiding light of the conservative more
the far right, who they he was the first neocon.
Yep, and he became the first neocon. Why would I support something like that? Like, who
also, he was not particularly religious.
No, he hated religion, didn't he? He condemned the religious right, and he hated Reagan for taking up the religious right or whatever. Anyway, Argent, what do you do with super chats? Do you wait till the end, or?
It was kind of off topic. I don't know if you want to quickly respond to the meme.
What do I thoughts on Canada? Well, Canada won the War of 1812. I agree. Canada defeated the United States twice. I mean, you could argue there wasn't there a confrontation over Maine, and I guess the United States sort of won that, didn't they?
I always thought of 1812 as just being a draw.
Well, the United States did the war to invade Canada, and they did not conquer Canada. I mean, the Britain didn't take any land back, but the war aims of the United States were thwarted. Britain
Yeah,
didn't.
I feel New Orleans was such a like clusterfuck. It kind of undermined some of the victory.
Yeah, well, were they Canadian? Well, I guess you could say this: the United Kingdom's drawed, Canada won, and the U.S. lost.
The current thinking among academics in Canada is that both America and Canada won and the natives lost.
That's so fucking gay. That is so fucking gay. How many, like, what is the percentage of Canadians that are Indian?
Less than 10.
Less than, isn't it like 4%?
It's something like that.
Okay, so all they talk about is the importance of the Indians, and they force all these classes on you.
No, when I went to so I went to St. Michael's Seminary in Toronto for like a Christmas concert, and they began by talking about Turtle Island.
Yeah, they teach you deliberately Turtle Island and all this stuff, but yet at the same time they're dumping limitless amounts of, like, they're as much as they're dispossessing Anglo-Canadians and Quebecois with fucking all the Asian immigration and like the entire immigration of the entire world, they're dispossessing the Indians even more.
There's a perpetual like protest camp outside Old City Hall that's mainly natives, and they have refugees welcome signs. I mean, just think about that for a minute. I mean, when our people came to this continent, they were much poorer than Africans or most of the people who come here are today. Like, are we really supposed to believe that like middle class Indians are poorer than like pre-Victorian Europeans?
Are we supposed to think that people that are fleeing the equivalent of free market genocide through the potato famine are the equivalent of like rich Arabs that are fleeing to get refugee status and automatic welfare?
Yeah, it's well, that was the irony, and I know we're jumping around, but of the refugee crisis is most of them are above the poverty line. Like, it tends to be middle to upper middle class educated males who tend to be going, young males, and the amount of money that they spend to get there to Europe could be used to buy like a university education. Is how like extensive it is. But the Indians in Canada are 100% in favor of immigration. They actually want more immigration. So, like, I've never questioned their right to be here. Like, I've gotten angry about a whole bunch of other minorities, but they have every right to be in this country.
In the United States, I think that actually the worst action of the United States ever, and I can be a total complete cuck for saying this.
Trail of Tears?
The colonization of Oklahoma after the Trail of Tears by whites. They should have just been given Oklahoma as their own state and allowed.
Well, they were promised it in perpetuity, weren't they?
Yep, but then the United States gave land rights to white settlers and backtracked on it after. And nobody talks about that in like American history. They talk about the Trail of Tears, but they don't talk about that they betrayed the agreement of the Trail of Tears. That's worse to me. Like, that's the worst thing of all of it, because I think that they should have been given Oklahoma as their own state. They could have Indian senators at Oklahoma. But I mean, the Trail of Tears is a giant fucking meme because they were by then.
Sorry, they were what?
They were white, and they were using the Indians were these, like, basically Andrew Jackson was a Nazgul that was stealing land from rich white people LARPing as Indians and giving it to poor, like, hillbilly white people.
Right. Yeah, we can talk about Andrew Jackson sometime. But anyways, back to Trump. We're getting off topic.
We didn't have like show notes or anything. So.
No, that's fine. No, we just lots of the chat.
It makes an interesting video.
That's fine. What was I thinking? So yeah, let's just go through Trump's accomplishments. Because I think he actually accomplished a lot more of his agenda than I thought he was.
I think we should go through Trump's accomplishments and then compare him to George W. Bush.
Okay, so we got protectionism.
Trade war with China, protectionism that was as most extensive as possible that a president could do by himself, leading to a trade war with China, or China
and Canada.
A major in Canada, and China is going through a major recession now because of it.
Didn't some industry come back to America?
Yes, industry is coming back to America, and if you are a autistic right member, you want the United States to be protectionist because that means that globalism is hurt a lot, and that nationalist movements in countries like Hungary or Poland and Italy will get more strength because the United States will have less financial connection with those countries and be more connected with itself. It'll break NATO's back. The United States becomes economically self-sufficient.
Oh, that's another thing. Trump trying to force the other members of NATO to pay their fair share.
But is anything gone? Has there been anything there?
I don't think it's necessarily worked, but he's at least trying. Like I'm going to give him credit, and maybe I'm being overly generous.
I think you have to give him credit because he's tried the entire time he's been president. I know I'm sounding like some kind of Zio shill or whatever. I'm like, oh, he's apologizing for somebody that doesn't share every single belief as me. But he's trying on his fucking things.
He's done. Well, we'll get to Bush in a second. Okay, so we got protectionism. We got him trying to force NATO to pay their fair share. You know what's a fucking disgrace? Canada no longer has main battle tanks.
How Canada would get does Canada deploy troops if China or not China, if Russia attacked the Baltic states, would China even help or would it just leave?
Sorry, would Canada even help?
Yeah, sorry, would Canada? Sorry.
Probably not. We would send humanitarian aid.
So Canada is in NATO purely for geostrategic purposes now?
Yes, because basically the conservatives tried to do things like upgrade the military. And they were just blocked and derided. So we don't have main battle tanks. We don't have modern jets. I have a friend in the army and he says it's paused as fuck. So we have we have a worse army. I mean, our actual soldiers are very high quality. They might even be better.
I actually am going to counter signal that.
Okay.
I think that Western armies would dissolve if they actually fought it like an Eastern European army at this point. I think that combination female-male fighting units would dissolve under pressure, and especially if they're multiracial against an all-male European army. Even maybe not an Albanian one, but even a Ukrainian one, I think that they
would. Even given the technological.
Oh no! The United States in strategic, what do you call it? Strategic test battles or training battles. Yeah. The United States routinely loses against technologically inferior armies in the training battles.
Right.
It's set up to win every time. It's a lot of it has to do because civilians are given complete control over the military.
Right.
And it's done for civilian purposes and for propaganda. It's not done to win wars. But I think that if Russia invaded the Baltic states, Poland and the Baltic states would be able to fight Russia. But the British army with Packies in it, they would just dissolve. The American army.
Well, they would refuse to fight.
Yes, how do you have a unit? Even if 5 people reserve to fight, you're not you have to have those people imprisoned. You have to send other people to imprison those people. All the women are
No. I mean, just the people would riot and prevent the army from being deployed. Because it's the virtue signal.
Oh yeah, I mean, think about World War One. How many people were rioting in the United States against World War One? I mean, like, they had to like militarize mines and everything. Think about what it would be like today.
Mhm.
Anyway, okay. Trump did not directly. Hillary Clinton ran on having a no-fly zone with Russia in Syria, which would cause World War III. Trump is not enforced a no-fly zone. Trump is essentially allowed Assad to win despite two extremely minor interventions.
Wasn't that just like a token thing?
Yeah.
Because people complain about, I feel like he was basically just kind of pressured into doing it, and it was like the definition of a half-assed, like to appease, I don't know, neocons.
Okay. Another thing, because we're talking about neocons right now, somebody said the Korean peace talks.
Yeah.
Hey, so North Korea and South Korea have the best relations ever. Maybe North Korea is trying to con South Korea into giving them financial aid. That's probably what's going on. I don't actually think that there's possibility. Oh no, I'm gonna get really in trouble for like not being like a fucking Juche shill here, but I don't think that North Korea is going to collapse because the reasons that the European communist states collapse. This is like a fucking huge video I should make someday. It has nothing to do with communism. It had everything to do with Gorbachev.
Right.
But if North Korea, like, if North Korea becomes a country like Vietnam or a country like China, like if the Korean, I don't want the Korean Peninsula, and it doesn't need to reunify.
I don't think the South wants to reunify
I
at
don't
this
think the
point.
South wants to reunify, and I don't think North Korea is unstable. But if North Korea becomes as open to the outside world as, say, Vietnam is, that's a massive victory for Trump. Massive, massive.
Well, I mean, like people say, oh, it's all just North Korea, um, like trying to shit, like to get money out of the South. Okay, but we aren't in the situation we were like 5 years ago, where North Korea was test
Shooting
firing
rockets over
nukes
the top of Japan.
and like trying to fucking start World War III.
Yeah.
Like that's not happening anymore.
Yeah,
Um,
North Korea is going to be. North Korea will probably get the internet. North Korea will probably be a country like at the level of freedom as Vietnam. North Korea will have regular relations with the rest of the world. Isn't that good? That's pretty cool. That's a diplomatic thing that happened because Trump was president.
yeah, we're not going to have a war. We're not going to have World War III because I mean, like, I don't think North Korea realistically ever intends to start a war with the South. I think it was just them
I
posturing,
think I
paraboling.
think that North Korea is drawn. I don't think that they're going to attempt to invade the South, but I think what's possible if North Korea is put in a position to where it'll either starve to death or it's so excommunicated from the world, what's possible if they do develop at least like nuclear missiles that could hit, well, I mean, they can hit Japan, they could hit Tokyo. I don't know if they can get their missiles, their nuclear heads small enough to fit inside ICBMs that hit Tokyo. But they'll start threatening countries like Tokyo, demanding food aid. You can do that with nuclear weapons. And if like that could have happened. If you had Hillary Clinton following what Bush and Obama did, you could have had a situation where North Korea would start threatening Japan to give them food aid with nuclear weapons.
Right. Well, the other thing is eventually what could really have happened is eventually one of North Korea's bluffs could go too far. Because if you're like, let's put it this way, if you're just firing like, eh, I'm gonna have to shill slightly for Israel because people like criticize them, but I mean, if people are shooting rockets at you, that's a declaration of war. I mean, you have a right to go in and attack them. And if North Korea, like, let's say that rocket over Japan had crashed and gone off, I don't think that would be unfair for the Japanese government to see that as a declaration of war.
No.
And like all the posturing and shit, and then maybe like some North Korean general believes their own LARP and just starts like a war. Like it could have happened at any point in time. Um, very, very easily. But it looks like the situation is at least the tension's been diffused for the moment, at least.
Okay, do you want to talk about the most important reason why you should always vote Republican for presidents?
Supreme Court justices?
Supreme Court justices. So in the United States, the Supreme Court is infallible and it can do whatever it wants. It can choose things out of thin air, and it has done so out of many times. So you know the idea of the right to a lawyer was created by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Right.
Abortion was made a human right by the U.S. Supreme Court.
Sorry, why is the right to a lawyer a bad thing?
It really clogs up the legal system.
Oh, okay.
And it's probably better that people would defend themselves as opposed to having a legal
because that incentivizes them to make the legal code so complicated no one can understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it's kind of like Obamacare forcing people to buy private health insurance.
Mm-hmm. It would be better if you represented yourself and you just like it would, like, if you have public defenders that are working for the system that are trying to become friends with the prosecutor so they can get in the like law firms and stuff, right? Like, they're not going to defend you very well.
Right. Okay, sorry. Gay marriage. Was affirmative action brought in by the Supreme Court?
Affirmative action has been shot down. Like, the affirmative action has been confirmed by the Supreme Court. You could shoot down affirmative action with the Supreme Court. The reason that Bork didn't become a Supreme Court justice is because he was firmly against affirmative action.
They just called it racist. Die like a week before it was about to be overturned or something.
Yep, affirmative action is something that grossly disenfranchises whites. It gives blacks a lot of power over you. It fucks you up in hiring. If you want to have a better life, period, if you are a white person, you should vote Republicans for president because they'll put Supreme Court justices which could get better laws against affirmative action, overthrow laws that are unconstitutional under the fucking bullshit 14th Amendment. We can use the 14th Amendment to obliterate affirmative action, right? So another thing is that pedophilia in the United States was legal for like 8 or 9 years. The Supreme Court made it illegal. The Supreme Court made child pornography illegal. The Supreme Court made the death sentence unconstitutional and banned the death sentence for many years. Then Reagan, when he appointed enough people to the Supreme Court, just like child pornography was banned, then he made capital punishment legal again through the Supreme Court.
I mean, none of us like the Kritarchy, but if that's the way the game is played, that's the way the game's fucking played, and we have to win.
Do you want a gun in your face, or do you want a gun in your enemy's face?
Well, it's and like as my point that I've stated many times, none of Trump's appointees will find a hate speech clause in the Constitution.
Yes,
I would bet any amount of money. As you can call them cocks, you can call them Zionists, you can call them, oh, they're not gonna, I don't know, overturn whatever make.
I mean, there is something to say they might be bad insofar as they won't be against monopolies in tech companies. Like, that's the worst you can say about it.
Yeah, but left-wing judges would also not be against it.
Now left-wing judges would not be against it anymore because left-wing judges would be neoliberals now.
Well, and tech companies give them money.
Yeah.
So, but, okay, and they won't take away your guns.
Yes. And you know what? If the United States breaks down and there's still a lot of guns, well, that gives you a radical ideology. That gives it some stopping power.
No, well, it does provide a natural limit to government power. Because I'm not.
There's no way you can I'm not skeptical of it, but I don't have any idea how you can't really qualify that.
What do you mean?
How do you qualify that the United States isn't as aggressive? The reason that Americans have more civil rights than, say, Britons or Germans is because guns exist in the United States. You can just kind of have a hunch it's because guns exist, but
no, but I mean, like, America, I don't think could become a totalitarian society in the same way as some other places. I mean, they're trying, but if the government did start just kicking people's doors down, I don't know if how long that could go on. You
Yeah.
get what I mean?
So let's talk about. So the main thing that everybody talks about is
Sorry, 1 second. Is Gorsh any good?
Like Kavanaugh's better than Gorsh.
Is Gorsh kind of like a mediocre center right
No,
justice?
Gorsh is like a legalist, so he's like not a textualist, so he's like textual on the 14th Amendment, which is horrible.
Oh.
I think that Gorsh is really bad when it comes to immigration, so that's not good. But Gorsh is not going to fucking find a hate speech clause.
Yeah, I mean that's super important because as I've said, the reason that the dissident right is growing globally is I think to a large extent because all the tech companies are based in America. And I know we can say like Google, Facebook, and Twitter are bad, but imagine if they were based in fucking China or Sweden or Belgium. Or,
Okay, let's take a thought experiment. If Trump lost the election, there would be 6 liberal Supreme Court justices right now. 6 and 3.
and Bader Ginsburg would probably.
Oh, she would have retired and been replaced too. Yep. So you would have 6 and 1 new one to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Not a very cool thing. So every single one of them, but is it Breyer or that's the other one that was Clinton appointed that's old?
I don't know.
I always confuse the ones that don't speak up as much.
Right.
Embarrassing. But that's pretty cool that I can still buy Holocaust revisionist books right now and not go to prison for it.
Well, I mean, yeah, but like imagine if all these tech companies were based in Sweden, where just there's no expectation of free. Like it would be a fucking mess.
Think about what WeChat is like in China.
Yeah,
that's what. Isn't that the biggest non-social? I guess Skype is based off Estonia, but that's the biggest social media not based in the United States other than Skype, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Although it's funny because China tried to ban gay stuff, but I think they had to walk it back because so many shit libs like bitched about it.
Yeah, Clarence Thomas is actually like our guy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, like there is a bit of a based black guy. I mean, but at the same time, like if they're actually like decent, I don't think Ben Carson would have been a good president, but I like him as a person.
What is what's the guy that ran against Obama for Senate? That's the base like super like Catholic traditionalist Catholic guy.
I don't know. Were the accusations against Clarence Thomas complete bullshit?
Yeah, I think that I think that the reason the Republicans lost the election or did as bad as they did, other than post-election voting fraud, is
someone mentioned Sotomayor. Don't you think
Sotomayor is like the worst ever?
I like how our friend says that she's worse than Ruth Bader Ginsburg because at least Ruth Bader Ginsburg
married and had kids.
Yeah.
Well, Kagan is the worst because Kagan, Alan Keyes. Alan Keyes is actually fucking based.
I like Alan Keyes.
Yeah. Anyway, Kagan. So Sotomayor had a husband at one point. Kagan like is completely like career woman. So do you want to talk about the elephant in the room with Trump?
Well,
I guess there's 2 elephants in the room. There's Israel and immigration. There's 2 elephant eyes. Did you want to talk about immigration?
Okay, just to get Israel the way I don't really care about it because everyone's going to be pro-Israel. Is he like exceptionally pro-Israel compared to like
George Bush?
Yeah, or Clinton or any.
Okay, let's put it like this. I actually hate Saudi Arabia more than I hate Israel.
I actually agree. I
think Saudi Arabia is the worst.
I think as a state, not necessarily as a people, but as a state, they're a much bigger geopolitical threat.
Well, the Saudi Arabia directly put its money into like Hillary Clinton. Like
And they're like the largest state sponsor of terrorism in the world.
Oh yeah, I actually think that there's massive corruption within the Saudi state that we cannot confirm because we don't know. But I think that Al Qaeda and ISIS is basically directed through government siphoning of.
Is that even like isn't that kind of like basically an open secret at this point?
I think it's it's a conspiracy. Like what's like a conspiracy that like 50% of people that know what they're talking about believe in? Like what would be like a similar conspiracy?
Mm-hmm.
It would be like people saying that the Zimmerman telegram is a hoax at this point.
Right.
It's a pretty like most people, like a lot of people agree. And that's kind of like the worst thing. But I mean, like, okay, Trump is like giving Israel all this shit. Trump, like the Jews still hate him with all their heart. Like the Jewish donors have shifted out of the Republican Party. So that's good.
The other thing is, in general, countries just like having good relations with other countries. And if people, in most cases, if people can have good relations with Israel, they'd rather have good relations with Israel. I'm sorry if that's shilling, but in terms of like state sponsors of terrorism and state sponsors of our enemies, no one's bigger than Saudi Arabia because they basically fund globalism. Well, that's not even like we know that they fund like all of it.
Well, Saudi Arabia funds globalism because that means that they can fund global Islam.
Right. I mean, I know it's a bit of a meme, the whole moderate Islam thing, but there were plenty of Muslim countries that were traditionally like the population was fairly laid back. Like in Albania, I think they were Azerbaijan.
Well, I mean, a country like Turkey, Turkey in the like post revolutionary Turkey after Ataturk. Country like Indonesia, pretty laid back Islam there compared to today. I mean,
although I admit I do like Erdogan. I'm going to be honest. I kind of like him.
Yeah, well, if you understand that Erdogan he's just Muslim, but you take the religion out of the context, you can put him in context is he's like just as much as Viktor Orban. He's the Viktor Orban for Turkey.
Yeah, like he doesn't seem like particularly like fanatical or crazy like in the way the Muslim Bros or ISIS is. It's more just sorry I had to jump around, but I think what people have to understand what secularism in the Islamic world means. Islam is the state religion, but you don't behead religious minorities. It doesn't mean separation of church and state.
Yes,
that's literally what it means. But okay, sorry. So we're jumping. So yeah, Saudi Arabia. Sorry. So Trump's given a lot of shit to Saudi Arabia. You said.
No, Trump hasn't. That's actually okay. So Trump didn't put countries like Saudi. That's actually one of my disappointments. Well, first of all, he did the fucking Muslim ban. He actually went through with it, even if it wasn't as good as I wanted it to, and it didn't include Saudi Arabia.
At least he tried.
He didn't even. It got through, and it's still standing.
Oh, it did get through? I thought.
Yeah, you didn't know that? It got through. The Supreme Court confirmed that it's constitutional. It's enacting right now.
Okay, so we got that. What about, okay, so now the big thing is people like, oh, he didn't build the wall.
Well, he couldn't build the wall because McCain and Jeff Flake. Like they were going to fuck him over on everything he did. And the thing about you have to understand is that like conservatives parade around the Constitution so much. The United States Constitution is actually a fucking terrible document. Because the United States Constitution, you have to have both houses of legislature, and then you have to have the Senate have a 3/5 majority to have anything passed.
Well, I mean, if America was still America, that wouldn't be that bad.
Yeah, but
The
well, no. What I'm talking about is it prevents. Uh, I mean, I guess you could say it's a good thing, but if you have it basically prevents any change and it's currently like, if you were like a liberal shit lib who wants white dispossessed, you would fucking be angry about the Constitution because uh, Republicans can block you as long as you have less than 59 senators or less.
okay, sorry, I have to just address something. So he says, how can you like Erdogan? He literally wants to replace white Europeans in Germany and the Netherlands with Turks. Okay, when I say I like him, I mean I wish we had a leader like him.
Turks are white.
Ooh, them be fighting words.
Non-Kurdish Turks are white. So Erdogan is a white nationalist. He's a Turkish nationalist. I guess he's not European Turkish in the sense of like he's not a Ataturkian, but Turks are white. Turks are.
I just like as far as Muslims go, I feel like he's more um socially conservative in a way that we'd recognize than maybe someone like the super Muslim bros. Like if you look at what he says about abortion and Turkey's birth rate, it's really based.
Well, it's the same thing that somebody like Erdogan is saying. I mean, I'm not Muslim, right? I hate Islam, but if you understand, Erdogan is your guy. Erdogan is a white guy trying to get more white babies, who's trying to maintain his country, and he's standing up for his people outside of his country. Sorry that I'm like a Nazgul and I like am sympathetic to people in the third world and everything, and I don't think that like I should just overthrow like all other races and replace them with white people or whatever.
Okay, but is Turkey funding? So was Turkey funding ISIS, or is that a meme?
It's a meme.
Okay.
I think that
Turkey was funding some of the other Islamist groups, weren't they?
Yes, but I guess then they could be, but Turkey is fighting the Kurds in Syria because the Kurds in Syria are allied with the PKK.
The Kurds are worse. The Kurdish party in Turkey has feminism as like its official ideology.
Yeah, the Kurds are shit.
Like okay, so let me just clear. When I talk about Erdogan, I understand that well, that's another thing. Sorry, just to talk about Turkey for a minute. Turkey was like historically America's greatest ally. Like
Turkey is geostrategically the most important country for the United States to be allied with if you're going to oppose Russian power.
Oh, okay. So the guy understands. Okay. The person in question says, I also like Erdogan. We definitely need a white Christian version of him. Yeah, Viktor Orban's the most like him. But like I said, I feel like he's more socially conservative in a way we recognize without having kind of the crazy shit that like.
Well, he doesn't like Turkey doesn't have multiple wives. The Turkish version of Islam is, dare I say, a more Christianized version of Islam. In that Turkish is like you can be a devout Turkish Muslim and like be against plural marriage.
Mm-hmm. But no, like I feel like Turkey was a pretty loyal, reliable NATO ally.
Oh God, yeah.
Before they got shat on and we decided to support the Kurds.
It's like, oh God, it's so fucking stupid. Well, the United States betrayed its two most important allies. The United States' two most important allies are the Republic of China, Taiwan, and Turkey.
Well, I'd say Japan, but
Japan, I think, is a close number 3. But
okay.
But Taiwan is the most important ally you have against the People's Republic of China. It's a fucking floating. It's a floating aircraft carrier.
I think it's kind of a meme. I don't like the amount of. I don't think mainland China would ever commit the forces necessary to take Taiwan.
Well, that's not what I'm talking about.
No, I know. I'm saying
talking about one China policy.
But No, I feel like Turkey was happy to just kind of be part of NATO.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think we should have let them into the EU. Well, that's a completely different issue, but you know why not? Because then Turkey would have gotten paused, and no one deserves to have.
That's actually like funny if you think about it.
The only country I want gay marriage to be legal in is Israel, but no, and then they decided to throw Turkey under the bus, um, to favor the Kurds, who are just fucking shitty, like shit libs that are of no, like they're no use to us, right? Like geopolitically, they have zero use.
They're
Someone says in the chat, if PRC attacked Taiwan, it would be a bloodbath and they would lose. Yeah, the number of troops they would have to expand to take Taiwan would not be.
It would be it would be the largest naval-based invasion in human history.
I don't think the Chinese Navy or Air Force are particularly good. Also, Taiwan's a fortress. I don't know if they still have conscription, but they've traditionally have a very large army.
From my understanding, there's like horrible tidal forces with Taiwan that makes it extremely difficult to supply an army once it's landed.
Right. Well, I mean, like China theoretically has a massive army, but you have to get that across in the face of the US and Taiwanese Air Force.
Well, the U.S. and then at that point, because of China's policy with the South China Sea against, Japan, South Korea, Indonesia, the Philippines, Malaysia, Vietnam.
Okay, if Taiwan called up its reserves, they'd have 3 million active duty soldiers.
Yeah, and I mean, China has as a second largest navy if you count its brown water navy. But that's because they use their army their navy partially as like
the People's Liberation Army Navy.
Yeah, it's like a police force on the Yangtze and the Yellow River and in the Grand Canal and stuff, isn't it? That's why it's the second biggest navy.
Yeah,
and it's a brown water navy. It's not even a seafaring navy.
Let's see what else has Trump gotten us. Sorry, was the other elephant in the room? Was one of them the wall, or was it Saudi Arabia?
I said there's two elephants in the room, which were Israel and immigration, and that's what people get pissed about.
Okay, so what do you have to say about immigration?
Well, how are you going to get past? Like, I'm sorry to be the breaker of bad news. Trump couldn't get any of that stuff past Jeff Flake and McCain. Like,
isn't he?
I don't see how
the army to stop. He sent the army though to stop the convoy.
Okay, so Trump has militarized the U.S. border. That's pretty awesome, right? Trump is not letting them in. I know that well, first of all, he couldn't get the fucking wall done. Like, the only way he could get the wall done is if he traded it for DACA. And that's something that we didn't want either. So DACA is now going to.
I think DACA's worse.
Well, DACA is going to be condemned by the Supreme Court as unconstitutional. Isn't that a win?
Yeah. So, and you have speculated that his 4D chess plan is to get the Supreme Court to strike down birthright citizenship.
Oh yeah. I mean, he's who knows if he's writing it. That's the thing, is that people have extremely bad patience with Trump. Mm-hmm. They don't understand that these things take a very long amount of time. I know. It's been 2 years and everything, and now he doesn't have the House of Representatives and everything. But like, okay, it does take a fucking long amount of time, and he has the entire bureaucracy working against him. And he has like all these judges striking down random shit. And because the United States system is so fucking retarded, you have to wait after a random judge strikes down all the shit that it has to go through the Supreme Court and then be confirmed. Okay? What he's got done with everything against him is pretty good for me. He did more for me than Bush did. He did more for me than even Reagan did.
Okay, what the fuck did Bush even do?
Bush cut taxes, and then Bush invaded Iraq.
Okay, like does that even like was trying to think of like how to even describe
Bush
it.
had a Republican. Well, he didn't have. It was like a tied Senate for part of it, but Bush had a Republican House of Representatives and a Republican Senate like for 6 years. 6 fucking years.
He didn't pass any of the shit. Like you don't necessarily would have. Neither of us maybe wouldn't have wanted to pass it. But they've been talking. Like remember all the LARP policies they've been talking about, like flat taxes
Mm-hmm.
and they didn't deliver on any of the shit they said they were going to deliver on.
No. Well, Bush wanted to get rid of Social Security, and he wasted everything on getting rid of Social Security his second term. And then the Democrats took back control of Congress hardcore in 2006. And like, he didn't do anything on immigration. So Bush was the last previous Republican president, and he didn't get us fucking shit. He invaded Iraq, which was fucking retarded in every single angle. Trump has been much better on every single thing than Bush. And no matter what you say about Trump, voting doesn't have any cost to it. Voting, if you do a mail-in vote, voting takes 15 minutes. Are you too much of a fucking pussy to waste 15 minutes? I mean, if you masturbate, doesn't it take you 15 minutes to masturbate, you fucking loser? Can you vote for 15 minutes instead of whacking it off? And Bush isn't, or Trump isn't Hillary. Trump isn't taking away Trump isn't like fucking taking away your Holocaust revisionist books. He's not fucking throwing people in jail. Okay, I think maybe the worst thing he's done is that Sessions fucking won't try Antifa. I think that's the worst, actually. And we'll see how that goes now that Sessions resigned. We'll see if
I thought Sessions was pretty conservative.
Sessions is a conservative.
Oh, yeah.
Sessions was good on some of the border stuff. Like Sessions was making the immigration bureaucracy a lot better, but on like he wouldn't investigate Antifa as a terrorist organization, and he started investigating alt-right organizations as terrorist organizations. That's pretty bad. That's kind of like one of the worst things, but we'll see how that pans out now that Sessions is an attorney general.
I mean, have they even arrested anyone from alt-right organizations?
No, what happened is that they arrested Antifa when Trump became president, and then they released him. Remember all those riots in DC? Yeah. They released them, and they were going to be convicted if they went through trial. They would have been convicted to like agitated rioting within the Capitol, which could be like 10 years. But then they released them. Sessions, like, that's the worst. Was Sessions, really. And Sessions is resigned now.
Yeah. I mean, so...
I think somebody talked about weed. I'm sorry, but going after weed in Colorado is like political suicide when your enemy controls the media. That's a bad idea.
I mean, I really dislike weed, but we have bigger issues to deal with.
Well, that's suicide. That's like a hill you don't want to die on. I'd rather have like Antifa be considered a terrorist organization and the people that are actually leading Antifa be fucking brought up on RICO charges.
Now, and this is just something I like to clear. I don't like the surveillance state. Like, I really hate it. And that's something Bush brought us. I really
Oh, there you go. Bush brought us that.
And like I say that as a Canadian because we adopt a lot of that shit. I don't like. I think the police state is largely necessary because of diversity. But I don't like it. I don't like the government spying on us in our houses. I don't like them monitoring what you do online. I do support banning pornography, and I will stand by that. But in general, I don't really like government censorship. Beyond like, it's not a, you know what I mean? It's not a suicide pact. If something's like really, really bad for society, then sure. But
I mean, here's my opinion. I support the banning of pornography, and I support censorship of movies, even if like I am a horror fan, so it's hypocritical that I would like allow something like Sallow to be banned or whatever. But I don't support the banning of any written word.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's fair, but I don't know. It's I really hate the NSA. I hate like all the like as like you can complain
Well,
about.
they're ineffective. They're basically just bureaucracy that's monitoring you. And I think that there's probably going to be more corruption than terrorists thought, like people stalking people that they want to date.
Yeah, shit like that. It's just no, it's not productive. It doesn't make us safer. It's just
And it's like a lot of fucking tax money that goes in the NSA.
yeah. Be a conservative for a minute. No, but you're right. No, it's true. I mean, at the end of the day, it's you do pay taxes, and even if you're like a
You're
national
putting all this
Bolshevik,
tax money into this bureaucracy that is your enemy. Do you want
right,
to do
well,
that?
it could be used on A, just given back to people, or B, used on things like building roads or giving people health care or science or okay, here's my comfort.
All the money that goes in the bureaucracy of the security of the nanny state that watches everyone. Like if you put all that money into healthcare.
I say we give it all to NASA, or a big chunk of it to NASA.
Oh well.
I guess NASA's shit now because Obama said that gave NASA the mission of making Muslims feel good about their contributions to science,
That's pretty sleep.
which was what his no, like that. I'm not making that. That's literally what their mission statement was during the Obama years. Uh, but it's just I don't know. It's as I said. I think he's done better than I had hoped.
Well, first of all, he's better than. So if Trump lost, then you would have probably Would you think it would have been Marco Rubio versus Hillary?
Maybe.
So if Marco Rubio won, would Marco Rubio supports like Trump hasn't done anything so far. Again, these things take a long time, but Trump has criticized Twitter and Google and everything for their censorship. Marco Rubio Marco Rubio says that they have a monopoly and that's good and that they should censor it. He's publicly said in Congress they should be censored. So that would have been that would have been the president right now. He would have been a carbon clone of Bush.
Do you think his social conservatist positions were just pandering? Because he said he was against, like he would have overturned gay marriage.
How do you overturn gay marriage?
I don't know. He just said he was
justices. Like Trump has done as much to overturn gay marriage as he would have.
But I don't know. I think in time maybe.
Who's saying that? Yeah, furries should be banned. There should be RICO charges against like the leaders of the furry community. Yeah.
Have you heard like that? Finally, one of them was arrested.
Was that have to do with the whole thing where they're fucking like roadkill and shit?
Yeah, they found like dozens of dog bodies buried in his backyard. And the thing is, he had recorded all of it, and the FBI found the tapes. So hopefully they'll track down the rest of these sick fucks. I would just have them executed. Like,
well, no, I'm talking about what I could do if I was president. I mean, if I was, if I was premier of the United States, I'd have my own little NKVD going after those furries.
Several of them have been, a number of them. Some of the seedier parts of the internet are doing something good, and they're trying to take down the furries and their sick fucking crap. I hate furries.
Do you have anything more to say, really? I think that we covered it a lot. I want to say regarding Trump is that voting for him takes 15 minutes, and sure he's not the best.
Or more on car insurance.
What?
It could save you 15% or more in car insurance.
Well, he can get you so that your fucking the books that you read don't get banned. He can get you so that your podcast that you listen to don't get banned. He can get it so, like, I mean, sure, me and Argent's channels can get kicked off YouTube, but right, but we can go on other accounts. We won't be in prison for saying what we're saying on YouTube.
Well, at least in your country. But
oh, sorry about that. Well, in my country, there you go. You live in a different country than me. But if Hillary won, if you didn't spend 15 minutes to vote for Trump, if Hillary won, then you would have a 6-3 Supreme Court advantage. Hillary, the Democrats would have. They would have passed hate speech laws. That it's just plain and simple. That's the reality.
And their stooges on the Supreme Court would have found it in the First Amendment.
Oh, I think it would have happened like in it would have happened like in a few months. Like she would have appointed the guy that Obama appointed, who is also Jewish. So there'd be at least 4 right now Supreme Court justices that are Jewish. Like think about it. Like the Supreme Court could have 5 in like an alternate universe. If Hillary won, Hillary's like appointment after Kennedy could have been Jewish too. So there could have been a 5 Jewish Supreme Court justices.
Yeah. So anyways, I think that's probably good. I'll have you back on. There's a number of topics I'd like to have you on to talk about. Sometime when we do a bit of pre-reading, maybe make some notes. Talk about economics a bit.
Yeah. I think it would be better if we had maybe like a panel of other people too.
Yeah, those are just always difficult to get together. Just a note for people, I'm going to be on. It's a busy night. I was at work all last night, so I'm kind of behind in some of this stuff. I'm going to be on another Canadian reactionary. His name's Endeavor. I'm going to go on his channel at 10 o'clock. So.
Okay, Base Caulfield. I just made a video, if you go onto my channel, about Ukraine and Russia. So if you want to see my thoughts about Ukraine and Russia, and you have anything else to say, I want to say this right now. Go out and buy No Chance. Go out and get it right now. He's going to make a paperback. If you go onto YouTube or onto Amazon, you'll see that my review is the first review on there. I'll stand by that 100%. Argent takes no prisoners. Get No Chance. It's a very great book.
Oh, thanks, man. That's very kind of you.
Seriously though, so another book similar books you could compare it to is what is it? Europe. What is it? The one that Empty Hero made. The one about Trayvon. Fucking Argent's book is 1,000,000 times better than that book. Argent's book has true heart. Go read it.
Oh, thanks, man. Anyways, I think that's a good place to cut out. God bless everybody. I'll be on with Endeavor in about an hour, and have a good evening.
Night, night.